It's all about the butterflies. Chapter 6. They all have a story. Every boy on that team was different, unique, but they all melded together like peanut butter and jelly. Not sure if I had anything to do with that, or if fate just brought us all together. David Byron was another frequent traveling companion, often sharing a room with Tripp. David's dad was an eye surgeon, so he was a busy guy. They lived in a huge house behind an iron gate in Englewood Cliffs, New Jersey. One boy who slept over at David's said the house had 44 rooms. David was a relatively quiet kid who always appeared focused. He knew his job and tried as hard as he could to fulfill it. On one particular trip, David was my only roommate. Another Friday night bus ride, so the boys would be fresh for a Saturday game. Dr. Byron had remarried, and David had a new stepmom. We talked a lot that weekend. Well, he talked and I listened. We had dinner in the hotel dining room by ourselves to avoid the clatter of all the other boys. He wasn't a very happy kid at the time, which was not like the David I knew. I tried to tell David to give things a chance, to give his stepmom a chance. That was the right thing to do. I don't know if our talks helped at all, but David seemed a little more settled by the end of the trip. Max Middendorf was the tallest boy on the team, towered over most of the others, and had some strength to back that up. But he had recently experienced his growth spurt. Aside from aching joints, he was somewhat uncoordinated. His legs and feet were too big for his body. He was a good hockey player, but occasionally fell over himself. By the end of the season, the rest of them started catching up, and a couple years later, he was tearing things up as a high school player. A beast on the ice. Despite his size, though, as big as many adults, he was still a boy inside. Always happy. He would later sign an NHL contract, playing on a few different professional teams in his career. Unlike Max, Jimmy Ilya was one of the smallest players on the team, always smiling. He had a nose for where the puck was going to be next. As of the districts, he had accumulated 71 goals, 42 assists for 113 points in 40 games. Tripp was Jimmy's center on their line, and they were like yin and yang. Tripp had totaled 29 goals, 55 assists, 84 points at that point in the season. With David Byron on the other wing, to make sure nobody picked on the little guys, they could score at will. It was fun to watch. Jimmy finished the season with 137 points. Awesome. He was also the second recipient of my Golden Puck Award. Vincent Del Gaizo, our second goaltender, was the son of Dr. Tony Del Gaizo, the same Dr. Del Gaizo whose older son Anthony had played on Ben Liuzzi's Cedar Grove teams that skated at Ironbound on Saturday nights in the early 70s. The same Dr. Del Gaizo who showed me how to suture up a wound on a boy in the Ironbound first aid room, allowing me to assist. He also told me how to practice suturing on an orange, in case I ever needed the skill someday. A lot of oranges suffered a terrible fate at my hands. Despite being a busy doctor, he was always fully engaged with his two boys and their hockey travels. Vincent wasn't a bad goaltender, but Aaron was better. So Vincent watched a lot of games from the bench. But when he was called on to play, he was always ready to give it his all. He was happy to be part of that team. Adam Diglio was our deep thinker. He gets a kick out of that title now, but he always seemed to be thinking about something and could come up with some of the quirkiest statements. The king of dry humor and one-liners. A defenseman, I don't think he valued his worth on the team as much as he should have. Not too long ago, Adam shared some thoughts with me of that PeeWee season. First, I should explain that in that 1979-80 Garden State Rockets year, all the players received player contracts upon being selected for a team. It was something I started with the Golden Blades midget team several years earlier. While obviously non binding, it was an agreement between the club and player outlining what was expected of each party. A couple coaches just selected their whole team in a single batch, but Coach Williams chose to only select a few players after each tryout, building suspense among the remaining open spots. Players would try to count how many contracts had been issued after each session, evaluating their chances of being selected for the Double-A team. It added some anxiety, but also made everyone work harder. One of Adam's fondest memories, Jim walking up to me at Ice World during tryouts, putting his arm around me and saying, "This," flipping the paper over, "this is a contract for you." I was stunned, pleased, and so very grateful. For decades, Adam has given back to youth hockey, volunteering his time and efforts for a local organization, providing opportunities for new batches of young boys and girls every year. I'm proud of him for that. Aaron Critch was an enigma. He was a really good goaltender who was the product of an odd family. Leon, Aaron's dad, was a tall guy with a big belly, always outspoken. He never held back if he had something bad to say about you or anyone else. One of my earliest memories of Aaron was of Leon standing the boy up in front of an open wall at Danny Michael's Ice Palace front lobby area and throwing a giant tape ball at him from maybe 10 or 15 feet away. If Aaron flinched, he would be punished. I think the kid was 9 or 10 years old. It was bizarre. Before each game, Aaron needed to vomit. I don't know if it was a nerves thing or he read that some goaltenders had a habit of doing it, but it wasn't pleasant regardless. He would usually barf in a trash can outside the locker room, sparing us all the sound and smell. I did my best to help him out, giving him some water to flush out his mouth, a towel for his face, but it was something I never got used to. Aaron was also afraid of flying, although he could stop flying pucks easily. I drove with Leon and the whole family from New Jersey to the PeeWee National Tournament in Fraser, Michigan. My assignment from Coach Williams, to make sure we had our star goaltender for the tournament. I also shared the driving with his mom in 1982 when Aaron went to hockey school at Michigan State. He still wouldn't fly. That's the trip I took a detour to Indiana to find James Dean's final resting place, my namesake. Aaron was a co-recipient of the Golden Puck Award that PeeWee year, along with Jimmy Ilya. As Coach Williams often said, you can't win without a good goaltender. Aaron was good at winning. A 1.82 goals allowed average with a 91% save percentage by the district tournament break, along with 8 shutouts. At 17, not yet finished with high school, Aaron knew he had to get away from his dysfunctional family. He set out for the United States Hockey League, USHL, the top junior league in the USA. Aaron knew he could play Junior A hockey and needed to prove it. He negotiated a guaranteed spot on the North Iowa Huskies. Without any support from Leon, made plans to fly, yes, he finally flew, out to Iowa to start his new life. Aaron finished high school while living with a host family and playing for the Huskies in 1984-85, followed by the Des Moines Bucks in 1985-86. Then it was on to Minnesota and the St. Paul Vulcans for the 1986-87 season. He made it on a couple NHL scouting reports, but never got the invite. After his final junior season, Aaron knew his professional hockey aspirations were over and he hung up his skates. Aaron remained in Minnesota where he resides today, never returning to New Jersey. Currently known as the bright suit guy around Minneapolis. He's a goaltender after all. They think differently than the rest of us. I saw Leon a couple times in the mid 80s. He would tell me that he told Aaron, "Don't come back till you have an NHL contract." Truth is, he never told Aaron anything, nor did anything for that boy. Leon didn't even know where Aaron was. Everything Aaron has accomplished in his life came from him, from within, and just possibly some valued Poopa instruction I passed on to him in 1979-80, with some help from a bird named Jonathan. Today, he tells me that he reveres me. Of course, that's humbling, but also convinces me that I was getting through. I did make a difference in at least some players' lives. You know, scientifically, all it takes is a few sperm cells to become a father, a dad. Most any male of our species can do it. But it really takes a lot more than that. It takes love, respect, support, and dedication to see it through to the end, no matter the obstacles or circumstance. Not all fathers are good fathers, and not all men deserve to be fathers. Looking at David Williams as a PeeWee, you may not have thought he would become the first New Jersey-raised player to participate in an NHL game. At the time, he was good, really good. Maybe not great, but he continued to grow and gain strength, along with new skills. His persistence, along with the constant encouragement and guidance from his father, got David a ticket to the big show. David never lost sight of his dream. An offensive defenseman, he had racked up 32 goals, 34 assists for 66 points by the district tournament. He contributed to the offense and protected Aaron on defense, an all-around player who went both ways on the ice. David may have only played 4 seasons in the NHL, 8 seasons professionally, but he was still our hometown boy, and that made us all proud. A quiet kid, always thinking and observing on the bench. I'm glad I had a chance to help him and treat him like the professional he would soon become. Lars Johansson was an outstanding young hockey player, rock solid in his defensive play and in his attitude. He was one of the few PeeWees I knew with real muscles, always smiling, but also always focused. He didn't produce a lot of points in games, but he stopped enough shots and threw enough hip checks, really painful hip checks, to more than make up for it. We might have needed another Jimmy Ilya if we didn't have Lars. He was a Lady Byng kind of player. After his youth playing days, Lars went on to shine as a high school player, later returning to youth hockey as an instructor and coach, giving back to the Montclair, New Jersey community, where it all started for him. I was saddened to hear that Lars passed away in 2007, after a long battle with brain cancer. He deserved better. It's only fitting that the Montclair Hockey Club now presents an award in Lars Johansson's name each season to the midget player who best exemplifies sportsmanship, dedication, and passion for the game. All attributes synonymous with Lars. Rest in peace, friend.